Hello and welcome back. This is video number 2, and we're going to dive right in and talk about what's your end goal. So before we jump in and talk about the technical parts of how to set up your email autoresponder series, it's really important to understand your end goal. Like, how many different ways and different opportunities do you have to profit, right? So unless you really understand at least a little bit of your plan, then jumping in like everybody else to just build a list is not going to be productive at the end of the day, right? So that's why I am going to focus on these few videos on what is your end goal, how do you create a connection, and how to understand your demographics and who you're talking to. That is actually something that most people totally forget about, and they skip that. And when they skip that, you actually end up failing or not profiting as well as you should be at the end of the day. So what I want you to do is I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and at the end of this video, I want you to pause it, take your time to jot down the answers to these questions before you actually move on to video number 3. So I want you to ask yourself, are you selling a product or a service? Jot that down. If not, are you selling an affiliate product? Now, if you're selling a product, obviously you could sell an affiliate product in the long run or vice versa. You really just want to get an idea of what your end goal is now, and what your future end goals could look like is fine. And the reason why I ask you to write this down is because if you're selling your own product, you can do a few things like build a relationship. And there's a few more things that you could easily do, like brand yourself, provide more value. And there's a different way of doing it, basically. If you're selling an affiliate product, you could still build a brand, but you're selling somebody else's product. So you need to gear it in a certain way. So in other words, if you're selling a product or service, you need to clearly understand what are the problems that your prospect faces, right? And give them tips and pointers along the way, and build a relationship with them, gain their trust so that they're interested in your product or service. Now, if you're selling an affiliate product, on the other hand, then you may not be required to do all of that. Instead, you can provide a little bit of value and build that relationship up front. And then, of course, you can sell somebody else's product. So it's similar, but it's a little bit different slightly. But knowing your end goal is key. So if you're selling a product or service right now at this very moment, then write that down. If you're not, and you're selling an affiliate product right this moment, then jot that down. All right. The third question I want to ask you is, why are you trying to build this list? You might answer, well, of course, I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to build a list. I'm trying to print money. And that's everybody's goal, but I want specifics. I want you to write down, why are you trying to build this list? I want to make more sales for XYZ product. I want to help more people who are facing this particular problem. In fact, jot that down. I want to help more people who are in this very specific niche, in this very specific demographic. I want to help more people like me. Jot that down, because then you can use that later in your email autoresponder series. So beyond the intention of just making money, what is the real reason behind wanting to build a list? Or in other words, you could rephrase it as, what are you trying to achieve? So if you have somebody that you're passionate about helping, envision that person in front of you and think about, why are you trying to help them, right? What are they facing? And this kind of goes into video number 3, and we'll talk more about that. But if you think about, why are you trying to achieve them? What are you trying to achieve in this whole project of creating this list, or this journey of creating this list? What do you want people to feel like? Do you want people to feel like they trust you, you want people to laugh? Do you want people to feel sad, feel happy? What do you want them to feel like as you're building that relationship. Now, you might ask, why would I want somebody to feel sad? Well, if you're trying to gradually build up to that point of trying to sell them, you want to focus on their pain. Not necessarily your goal is to make them sad, but your goal is to find their pain and to show them that you understand their pain. You understand where they're coming from, right? And from that point, how do you heal them? How do you help them? How do you solve their pain? All right. So that's what you want to do, and jot that down. So what I'm trying to get at is there should be a very specific reason why you are building a list. Building a list just because you're told that it's a great way to print money is not the best reason. In fact, money should come last. Helping people should come first. If you can help 1,000 people, and those thousands of people are truly helped, or you provide them with a solution, even if they were to pay you $10, every single one of them, that would be about $10,000. Now, that doesn't mean that 1,000 people will sign up on your list and all 1,000 people are going to buy from you. My point is, what is that passion? What is that drive that comes first before the money? Because if you focus on that and you focus on helping people solve their problems, believe it or not, you're actually going to build a more successful business compared to the other guy who is just focused on building a big list for the sake of money. Hopefully that makes sense. So these are all very important questions, and you should pause this video right now and write down the answers to them before you move on to the next video, which is video number 3. Okay, so welcome back. This is video number 3, and we're going to dive straight in, and we're going to talk about creating a connection. So you kind of got a sneak peek preview of a little bit about trying to create a connection in the previous video. But before we write out your email autoresponder and of course jump into the technical setup, you really need to understand people's problems, what they face, and what the solutions are. So what I'm going to do in this particular video is to help you figure that out and help you solidify what that really looks like. Because the reality is that before you can even do that, you need to do a bit of research, kind of demographic research, or in other words, what does somebody look like? What does your prospect look like? And understand what somebody's typical day looks like. Now, you might be wondering, why would I ever want to know that kind of detail? That's actually very crucial, because if you understand what happens in their day-to-day, you will understand their frustrations, you will understand their happiness, you'll understand their problems, and you'll understand how to create a connection with them to go beyond just, okay, you're behind the scenes, you're behind the computer kind of thing. You'll create a connection, even though you're worlds apart or countries apart, you will create a connection that will click. And that's the end goal of this particular video. That should be the end goal of your list. So my question to you is, does your prospect within your niche lean heavily towards male or towards female? Or does it equally move towards both male and female? So in other words, in order for it to lean just towards female, is if, let's say for example, that niche is 90% female, or even 95% female, or even 75%. But even 75%, you're kind of moving towards that 50% so that it's both male and female. But if it's heavily towards males or heavily towards females, 80% above or 90% or above, then you want to jot that down. The next question is, what is your product or service or affiliate program trying to solve? So let's pick a niche. For example, survival niche. That niche tends to lean more towards males. And if you think about it, why would they be interested in survival? Well, natural disasters like earthquakes, tornadoes, and all of that can happen. The best thing to do is be prepared. So a lot of times, whoever the breadwinner is, male or female, but this just happens to lean towards males more heavily, they think about what could happen in those situations. Is my family prepared, or am I prepared enough to help my family in these dire situations? So if you have a product in that case, then you could essentially build a lead magnet or an email autoresponder series that touches on those pains, those fears, the ones that keep them up at night, knowing whether or not their family is going to be safe in these natural disasters. It doesn't matter if you're selling a product or service or an affiliate program. The whole goal of every single one of these items is to build a relationship first. Then you can sell your product, then you can sell your service, and then of course, then you can sell your affiliate program. So oftentimes you'll find that the best converting email autoresponder series, they tend to build a relationship first rather than selling first. A lot of times if you sell first, you'll actually scare people off or piss people off, and they'll simply go to your competitor. So if you think about these things and what essentially keeps them up at night, jot that down right now. In fact, pause this video and jot that down so that you have a better understanding of what you could potentially talk about in your email autoresponder series. And while yes, it does seem a little bit basic, and while you may have heard this over and over again, and you might be thinking, yeah, whatever, let's get on with it. Really, trust me, this is actually very, very important. And this is something that we didn't really even think about long ago when we built lists, and we couldn't figure out why the lists weren't converting, is because if you start with the problem, the pain, and move on to the solution, you have a better gauge of where people are at and how you can get them to a certain point. But if you build a list to build a list without any sort of plan, without even understanding their problems and pains and all that, you don't really know where, in what stage they are at. Does that make sense? So believe it or not, this is extremely important. You need to jot these solutions down so that people feel connected to you, or else, of course, they'll leave. So with that said, let's move on to video number 4. Now that you have set up your autoresponder system, you can set up your web forms. In other words, web forms are forms that allow you to collect people's emails and their names and get them onto your email list. Now, keep in mind that a lot of you may not need to do this, especially if you're using a landing page creation system like Leadpages or something else that connects to GetResponse or your autoresponder system through API. If you're doing it that way, you're not going to really need to know how to do this. You only need to know how to do this if you're not using those systems. Now, at the same time, if you don't know how to do this and you've never done this before, I would highly recommend that you actually watch this video so that you have a better understanding of how things work, because there will come a time where you may need to set this up. So with that said, let's jump on over to getresponse.com, and I'm going to show you how to set up a web form. Okay, so to create a form, all you need to do is go to this forms and surveys. So click on this and you're going to see manage forms. Next thing is click on create form. And then of course you'll have the ability to create a form. So you can either use the list builder wizard, as you can see here. So this is a variety of different forms. You can create newsletter signups, free course signups, different types of purposes too, like leave feedback forms, Facebook forms, blank forms, order forms, and more. So it's not just web forms, there are all sorts of different forms. But for this purpose today, and in this particular video, we're going to focus on sign up forms. So we're going to click on newsletter sign up. And even though this information has like nonprofit organization, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use that logo. As long as you see something that you like, you can pick it and you can change the graphics, you can change the background, and of course you can change the text. So if we scroll down and we find something that maybe fits our design of our website and our landing page, let's do something like this. Use this template. So now at this point, if you select the items, you can actually change them. So this is a different logo, so we could change it to our own logo, click image, and of course go through the process of finding either a logo or clicking my images and finding your logo. Now, for the sake of simplicity, I try to keep my web forms very simplistic. The text should say something like, sign up for this free report, free ebook, free checklist, the top 5 ways to create a survival meal kit kind of deal. You have to tell people what exactly that they are getting so that they kind of can visualize what they're going to get on the other side. So keep it simple, straightforward, to the point. Enter the name, email, and then sign up for updates. Now, what I recommend that you do, and this is something that has worked well for us, is to change this into something like send me the report. So that way, psychologically, when they click on that, they're thinking, oh, I want you to send me the report, right? If you just have a submit button and that's it, in reality, your conversions are not going to be as high because it doesn't really tell people what they get. So this tells people what they get, but this tells people that, okay, they're definitely going to get something. So send me the report, send me the checklist, send me the report to my email. So that way, the next step in their mind, psychologically, they're waiting to receive an email, right? Now, you can test this out. If you only want to collect emails only, you could remove the name here. But if you do that, just keep in mind that when you customize your emails and you personalize them, you can't say, hey, first name, because you don't have their name. So going through here, these are just elements that you can add. And of course, you have the layout and the style. You can change the design, the color, and all of that. When you're done, you click on Save and Publish. And there we go. So we're almost done. And now there are several different options that you have. You can say, I will install the form myself, and it'll give you a script code. So this is JavaScript. You can click copy. And then, of course, you can add that to your landing page. You can add that to your blog. Now, like I said, if you're using lead pages, then you're never really going to have to even go through this process. This process really is only for if you are posting this directly to your blog or anywhere else. You can also say GetResponse will host my form. So what this will give you is a direct link to a URL. So if we go here, when somebody goes straight to that link, they are then, of course, sent to the opt-in here. I would not recommend that you do this unless it was like a customer or somebody that really trusts you. In fact, I would highly recommend that you use an external landing page creator, or you use the built-in one in GetResponse. And if you do that, you don't even need any of this information. And that's how to create a web form.